In this screencast, we're going to be creating a linear model in Excel to compare the infant mortality rates in two different countries using the data from this site, which is called Gapminder. The countries we'll be looking at will be, will be Australia and East Timor. So I've taken the data from the Gapminder website and transferred it over here, and we'll be looking at infant mortality rates. And just to be clear, that's what we mean by infant mortality rates. So first of all, let's actually create a graph of the data. So starting with Australia, let's just grab the data here and go Insert, Scatter, and choose that option there. There's a nice graph of the Australian data. Now, it actually doesn't look really linear, but there certainly is a bit of a trend. Let's create a linear model nonetheless. Click on any of the points using right-click and then choose the option Add Trendline. Now, we'd like a linear model, so up here, that's our choice. Let's give our linear model a name, so let's go Custom, and let's just call it Linear Model. Now, unless we make changes here, the linear model will only start at the first point and stop at the last point. So let's actually make it extend beyond it 5 years earlier and 5 years after the last point. When we end up with our linear model, it will be a straight line. If we choose this option here, it will tell us what the equation of the line is. And if we choose this option here, it will tell us the R² value, and I'll talk more about that later on. Okay, so there are our points in blue, and that is our trend line that has been drawn there. And here is the equation of the trend line, and there is the R² value. So let's interpret that a little bit. In y equals mx plus b format, the m value is minus 0.09. In this case here, the fact that this value is negative tells us that the infant mortality rate is decreasing as time goes by. It's actually decreasing by 0.09 people per thousand each year. The plus 186 tells us that if we were to extend our timeline back to x equals 0, in other words, to the year 0, the y-intercept would actually be 186. So if this trend could be thought to continue in the past, then way back in when time is 0 AD, there would have been 186 deaths per thousand. All right, now let's do a graph of, I'll just move this one away. Let's do a graph of East Timor. So just grab all of the data and again insert, scatter, this one. And that'll actually show us the graph of East Timor up here and Australia down the bottom on the one graph, but I'd actually prefer just to have East Timor by itself, so just clicking on that and deleting it. Again, to insert a trend line, right-click on the graph, add trend line, choose linear, custom, so let's call the linear model a linear model. And again, let's extrapolate our graph forward and backward by 5 years, and again let's show the equations. I'll just cover that over there because we've now got our data presented graphically, and we can now compare our two graphs. We can see that the East Timor data is much more consistent in its closeness to the trend line, whereas the Australian data, not so much. And that's where the R² value comes in. R² tells you it's a measure of how well the linear model fits the data. So the closer the R² value is to 1, the better the model represents the data. And you can see for the East Timor values, it's 0.99, which is very close to 1. The Australian, not so much. And so now we have created exactly what we wanted to do. We've got linear models for each of these two things. Again, for the East Timor values, the fact that the M value here is negative tells you that its mortality rate is decreasing as time goes by. And the fact that it's got a bigger number means it's decreasing at a more rapid rate than Australia, but you can see why that might be, because Australia's values are so small to begin with compared with the really unacceptable size of the infant mortality rate in East Timor.